Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ceci and this is Jono. Today I'm gonna be opening my Ancestry DNA results. I've had them available to me a few weeks now, but we were just settling back in and I wanted to be able to sit down and have a look. And I wasn't sure if I was gonna do it today or tomorrow or a different day, but I just felt a big urge to have a look now. And I'm not gonna go too much in depth of all the things that I've been thinking and why I decided to do it and my thoughts on the results. I just really wanna just open them and see what shows up. So this is what we're gonna do, and I have Jenna here for emotional support. I'm quite I was feeling quite anxious and nervous and I really just want to see it, so yeah. You ready?
Yep. Let's do it.
Okay. So I got this email, your ancestry DNA results are in, and then the one you're waiting for. Let's see. We have a few things. The first thing is traits, and I actually, when I bought it, I think it didn't let me
I don't think it did, but it might
buy
do.
the traits, so I might buy those later if it's not already here, but it doesn't seem to have anything. So it says, see how DNA influences your fitness levels, lactose intolerance, hair thickness, and more. I mean, I don't have freckles and I don't hate cilantro, so phenotype is what you actually have. Sometimes what you see in the mirror is different from your genotype-based trait result, which, because the traits are often influenced by many genes. Yeah, I don't know much about genetics and stuff, but I have seen video on how there's different types of DNA tests that you can take, and there's one which I don't remember the name of, but that you, like, as a woman can't really take it, like it only shows up for men. So if I wanted to do that specific type of DNA test, I would have to have my brother or my dad do a test of that sort, and I'm not sure which type of DNA test this one is, but we'll see. So three traits. It looks like maybe we don't have the whole traits, but they're giving you a few free ones to entice you to get more. So heart rate recovery, average, morning or night person, morning person, and taking naps, less likely. Yeah, I think I usually would rather stay awake during the day.
Probably.
Of course, as everybody knows, but I think it's worth mentioning anyways, like, we don't expect this to be 100% accurate, and each company that does DNA would have slightly different thoughts, and as science evolves, things would be maybe more accurate, or at least would have more things to consider to say you have this or that. But yeah, next thing is the origin. So surprise. That's cool that it says it's more indigenous American Mexican than Spain. My only hope was I was gonna assume that I had a very high level of European, but my biggest hope for this test was to have something else other than Spain, or that the majority was not Spanish. So the fact that it's indigenous Americas actually makes me happy. Like, I was expecting something else, like elsewhere in Europe, and again we'll see what else is there in those 9 more, but as long as it wasn't Spain at the top, because I feel like that's the most cliche thing for white Mexicans, I'm happy with that. Ethnicity, regions, learn where your story started, DNA communities, pinpoint your paths, DNA matches. Okay, which regions you inherited from each parent. That's interesting. Ethnicity estimate, indigenous Americas Mexico, 42%, northeast Mexico and southern Texas. Yeah, I'm from Monterrey, Nuevo León, which is in the northeast south of the US. Eastern Coahuila, Nuevo León, northern Tamaulipas, southern Texas. North central Nuevo León to Zapata, Texas. And okay, Spain, 35%, Portugal 7%, France 6%, Basque 4%, Nigeria 1%, Levant, I don't know what that is, 1%, Indigenous Americas, Bolivia, Peru 1%, Jewish 1%, Sardinia, which I don't know where that is. That's somewhere in Spain. Europe. 1%. Ireland 1%. So I actually was my brother and I were. Well, my brother mostly. He did a bit of research on our names and our mom's last names, like families' last names are sort of Jewish. So we were expecting a bit of that, or not expecting, more like maybe that could be a lead, but 1% is nothing, so not really. But obviously, there's Jewish people in other countries, because actually, like they consider Jewish a specific region, not a country, of course.
I thought when it came up with that area, it looked quite interesting, but it's only like 1%, so.
Yeah, it's weird that it has random places. I guess there was like one person though on the family tree that was from those random places.
Yeah, probably.
So it says your DNA inherited from each parent.
It's pretty even.
Yeah.
Except for parent one, which I assume might be your dad.
What?
Because there's more Spanish than parent two.
2 communities. Well, that's interesting. Like they don't know anything about me, right? So I did add some information on my family tree, but not like too much. But basically, they pinpointed where I'm from. But the history is that the north of Mexico doesn't have such a long civilization like established there, because it wasn't great for agriculture. So people have been there for a long time, but not before Europeans. So I would have assumed that the DNA would draw from the European roots, which it did. It's 35% Spanish. But now, it's just interesting that I don't know if that's possible, but I would have expected, or would have been interesting to link that thing in the map about Indigenous Americas to an actual indigenous group of the area, instead of just the region. Like, what's the DNA that connects you to a geographical area? It's more like, what people were there before. And of course you can click on them, and I'm gonna click on them later after I see the overview of things, to see what else they have to say about that history bit. See the parent breakdown. Do they know which parent is which? They both seem to have somewhat equal amount of everything.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Again, when people ask me or tell me like you're Mexican, but like where you're really from, like that is less of a straightforward question that people ask me, because Jono's experience with you being the first one born in New Zealand from your family, and what I've seen, because I don't know what I've seen of people's experiences in the US, like that's the question that you always receive. And for me, I think I've always told them, like in Mexico, generally people have been there for ages, and they have been mixed to a point that you don't really know where you're really from. You cannot just assume. But it's kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah.
So I guess that's interesting as well. Just noting, it says that one parent has mostly the Nigerian and Bolivian, Peruvian side of things, and the other parent has the Jewish, Sardinian, Ireland. So I'm gonna assume, just by the looks, that my dad is the one that has
probably
mostly Jewish, Ireland, and my mom would have, and those are the 1%, Nigerian, Levant. I don't know what that is. And indigenous America is Bolivia and Peru. And yeah, my dad would have more sort of percentage Portugal and France, and my mom would have more a little bit less Portugal and then Basque. But then in this case, if we're assuming that parent who is my dad, he has less Spanish.
Mm-hmm. More European though.
And more less Spanish and more indigenous.
Yeah.
So maybe parent number 2 that has less Spanish and more indigenous is my mom, and has just a little bit of Jewish and Ireland. And my dad has Nigerian and Peruvian, but it has more Spanish and like 2% less indigenous American Mexico.
Could be.
That would be really cool. I was thinking to give my parents this DNA test. I don't know how much of a gift it is for them, because I feel like out of my family, I'm the one that is more curious about this. But would be interesting to find out what their breakdown is.
Well, what do you think?
Again, I feel like it's a little bit underwhelming because I'm happy that I have more native Mexican, like Native American Mexican than Spanish, but it's still sort of, the two things that you would expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just imagine if I did it. Wow. Should we look at your family tree?
Okay, so I have some notifications that says there are hints, and they're pairing sort of information that they have found with the family tree that I have provided.